Ready, set, hut, hut.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sound of gold and blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 15 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tay Von Austin.
The Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth. It's Mountaineer pride.
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
We've no doubt tonight they shouldn't have played the old Golden Boot. Not this night.
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the gold and blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another live stream here on the Country Roads Webcast, August 16th edition, into the dog days of West Virginia football fall camp. We'll have some updates on that ongoing. Just a little over 2 weeks away now from the kickoff against Penn State on August 31st. We're getting so close we can almost taste it now, guys. Getting really close to that. And hopefully you guys have had a chance now to check out our WVU football season prediction roundtable episode. Put it out about a week ago, a week and a day at this point. And, of course, wanted to wait till about a week before I did these Big 12 predictions because I didn't want to spoil the WVU record before anyone had a chance to check that out. So here a week later, we're going to dive into some Big 12 predictions. I'm going to showcase my records for predictions for each team. We'll go back, look how I did in the 2023 predictions first, and then we'll get into that. But we'll give it a couple minutes, let some people roll in here. As always, I encourage you guys to drop any questions you got in the chat there. I'll try and touch up with you guys in the chat. If you haven't yet already, become a channel member here at the Country Roads Webcast. You see the info scrolling along the bottom there. It's just the join button beside the channel name there in the video description you can find. Just today, I uploaded the Cincinnati game rewatch. So that's pretty much the complete 2023 season. You can now go back and rewatch with commentary, me breaking it down. If you're a film junkie, I'm sure you'd like that type of stuff. All we have left to do now is the Baylor game and the bowl game, and you'll have the full 2023 season able to rewatch with commentary up there. So ton of bonus content. And of course, also once the season gets rolling, you're going to have Cruise Film reviews up there. You're going to have the player grades videos up there. All of that's going to be part of the channel member side of things. So no better time to join than right now, just ahead of the season. There's going to be a ton of extra content coming up there. Want to remind you guys of that. If you're in here live, do me a favor while you're in here. Even if you're on the playback, you can do this. Just hit the thumbs up button. Helps a ton with that algorithm. And of course, subscribe here for Mountaineer football content in the future. Hey, what's going on, Tim? Tim says he watched the Cincinnati today. Did a good job. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that, man. That was one I was looking forward to a lot because it was Jaheim White's first career start. That's my favorite player on the roster. So I was looking forward to getting to that one. Glad to get it done this morning and get it out there for channel members there at the Almost Heaven level. So appreciate you being one of those, Tim. You guys, can't thank y'all enough there at that Almost Heaven level. You make it all go for me here, make it a possibility to continue to do this. You guys are always the catalyst behind the Country Roads Webcast channel, the wind beneath my wings, if you will. So let's pull up a few updates real quick. We'll see if we can get some more people to roll in here. We'll start the predictions probably about, let's give it 7 minutes in. We'll give it a couple more minutes or so. We'll go back, look at the 2023 Big 12 predictions, and then we'll pull up my 2024 predictions and throw them in there. But you guys got any questions, comments, concerns, throw them in the chat. In the meantime, in between time as well. Let's see here. Let's throw up a few updates. I've been trying to update these watch lists. There's a couple other watch lists that came out here. Let's throw those up on the screen first before we get into the Big 12 predictions. We have Wyatt Milam was named to the Lombardi Award watch list, given out to one of the top offensive linemen or linemen in general, I believe, they're in college football. So we got him on that watch list there. And then, of course, we got GG popping up on a couple more watch lists. Let me share this one with you guys. If I can find the right tab here. I just had it. Where'd it go? There it is. So Garrett Green, we've seen him on the Maxwell Award watch list. We've seen him on the Davey O'Brien Award watch list. Now we see him on the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award watch list, obviously given to a quarterback with the Golden Arm title there. And, of course, the Manning Award, same thing there, another quarterback award. He's on the watch list for that one. And kind of no surprise that he pops up on this one after the fantastic job he did at the Manning Passing Academy, his second year in a row attending that event, that camp over the summer. But this time he really stood out on 3, even had him in a write-up there as one of the standouts at the Manning Passing Academy. So Garrett Green making great strides this offseason. So wanted to share that with you guys. And as Tim says, he thinks Garrett Green's going to ball out this year big time. I agree with you, Tim. I agree with you fully, for sure. And then the other thing we can update really quickly before we get to the Big 12 predictions is I wanted to share these with you guys. If you guys haven't seen these going around, it's pretty cool. On social media, West Virginia's been sharing the core values of Mountaineer football within the program. One of those core values, discipline. There's 4 of these. Discipline, consistently making good decisions and doing what you're coached to do. That's one of the core values that they're making a priority in this program. The other core values, of course, show those as well. And then we'll get to these Big 12 predictions. Accountability, which they say commitment to something bigger than yourself, accepting responsibility for your words and actions in regard to your teammates, staff, and West Virginia University being held to the standards of our program. And we know they have those accountability teams throughout the offseason, so not surprised to see accountability as a Mountaineer core value. And then 2 more core values here within the program. Those being hard work, pride in giving their best effort in all phases, do more than our opponents, strain. Got to outwork everyone. And you've heard them say, throughout camp, we want to do the hard things better. And that's why, hard work is one of these tenets of Mountaineer football here, these core values. And the last core value I'll share, and then we'll get to the Big 12 stuff, guys, is toughness. Mental and physical strength, the ability to overcome adversity and perform at the highest level under the hardest condition. Be at your best when your best is needed. So there's your 4 core values within the Mountaineer football program. Pretty cool stuff there. They've been sharing those with us. Discipline, hard work, accountability, and toughness. It sounds like a great way to build this program, and we love the way that they're building it here at WVU. All right. So with that, let's get to our main topic here, the meat and potatoes, if you will, of this live stream. And that is, of course, our Big 12 conference predictions for 2024. But first, let's look back at 2023, see how we did. I believe I shared this, after the season last year, but, just as a refresher. All right, so this is the last year's. On the left there is what I predicted in the preseason. And then on the right there is the actual results at the end of the season. So just to kind of break it down, I wasn't too far off on some of these. Some of these I was a little bit off. Kansas State, had them 10-2, 7-2. They ended up 8-4, 6-3. So that one a little bit off. Oklahoma predicted their exact record, actually, 10-2, 7-2. That's what they ended up. Texas, I had underrated. They ended up going 11-1, 8-1 in conference. I had them 9-3, 7-2. Texas Tech underperformed a little bit to what I thought they would. But, hey, how about my job on the Mountaineers? I predicted them 8-4, 6-3 in the Big 12 predictions. And, of course, in last year's season prediction roundtable. And they ended up exactly 8-4 and 6-3. Kansas, I had 7-5, 4-5. They were pretty close to that, 8-4, 5-4. Oklahoma State, underrated, as of course we know they ended up 9-3, 7-2, playing for the Big 12 championship game there. UCF, I had 7-5. They ended up 6-6. BYU, I had 6-6. They ended up 5-7. TCU, I had 6-6. They ended up 5-7. So not too far off on these ones right here, about a game or so off. Houston, I had 6-6. They went 4-8. Baylor had 5-7. They actually went 3-9, surprisingly. Iowa State, I really underrated. I thought they was going to have a down year, losing Brock Purdy, losing the people that they did, but they really surprised after a slow start to the season, went 7-5. And Cincinnati, another one that I predicted dead on. I had Cincinnati 3-9, 1-8 in the conference, and that's exactly what they went, 3-9, 1-8. So I predicted Oklahoma's record exactly correct. I predicted West Virginia's record exactly correct, and I predicted Cincinnati's record exactly correct, and wasn't too far off on some of the others as well. So I'll take that. And my standings, not too far off, the actual standings either. I had West Virginia predicted 5th. They finished tied for 4th. So right in there where I expected them to be. So that's just kind of a precursor to these 2024 ones. Hopefully I'm as accurate this time. We'll see what happens. But like I said, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know my West Virginia football record prediction, I'm about to pull up the 2024 predicted standings. So maybe you want to pop out of here and come back after you've watched the season prediction roundtable or listen to it, however you want to take that in. We just released that last week. Got our podcast rolling for season 7 with the WVU season prediction roundtable. And you can find that here on YouTube. You can find it on WVSportsNow.com. And, of course, you can find the audio version on any podcast platform, Apple, Google, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast. Just search Country Roads Webcast if you want to take in the audio version, because I'm about to show what my West Virginia football record prediction was, because I'm going to talk about my 2024 Big 12 predictions now. Cruz-Stradamus. Hey, what's up, Steven? What's going on, brother? Good to see you in there on the Twitch side. We are live on Twitch as well, in addition to YouTube, guys. I didn't do too bad last year. Let's take a look at the 2024, guys. Hopefully it ends up being as accurate here. We'll see what happens. All right. So, pull this up here. Broke this down for each team. I'll kind of slowly scroll through this, but if you guys want to know specifically some games, or I'll have somebody winning or losing, just ask and we'll put it in there. But I want to get to the standings prediction, really is kind of the main thing here that we want to talk about. And it's interesting because there's actually several teams I have tied with similar records in this one. And of course, just like I did last year in blue is the 2 teams I predicted to play in the conference championship game. But this is one thing that I'm worried about with the way that the conference is shaping up this year, guys, is just the fact that, let's see if I can make this a little smaller to get all that in there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is what I'm worried about with us having 16 teams in the conference now and not everyone playing everybody. Is our 2 teams going to end up with similar records, and it's going to come down to a tiebreaker to see who goes to the Big 12 conference championship game. That's something that I'm a little bit worried about. As you see in my predicted standings, I have that happening with a tie for 2 teams for second, those being WVU and Utah. And I'm a little bit worried about that happening because I would hate for West Virginia to have a very good year like I'm expecting them to have, and them to not make the conference championship on something crazy, just like a tiebreaker scenario. But this is what I've got for my predicted Big 12 standings. I've got Kansas State. I'm predicting them to go 11-1, 8-1 in conference. WVU and Utah, I have both of them 10-2, 7-2 in conference, tied for second. I've got Arizona 9-3, 7-2 in conference. I have Oklahoma State and Kansas tied at 4th. Both of those 2 teams, I'm predicting 9-3 and 6-3. Then I have UCF right there below them at 8-4, 6-3 in the conference. Iowa State and Texas Tech, I don't have tied because they actually play each other head-to-head, so I use that as the tiebreaker. That's why I have Iowa State 6th and Texas Tech 7th, because I have Iowa State winning the head-to-head matchup between those 2, but I do have them both with the same record at 8-4 and 5-4 in the Big 12. Baylor, I'm predicting 6-6, 4-5 in the Big 12. Cincinnati, 6-6 as well, but 3-6 in the Big 12. Then I have TCU, 5-7, 2-7 in the conference. BYU, I have tied with Colorado. Both those teams, I'm predicting 3-9 and 2-7. Yes, I'm not a believer in Colorado. I think they'll be lucky to win, 4 games just like they did last year. Just not buying into those guys at all. I do have them pulling off one big win, though. I'll talk about that in a second. And then tied at 12th, I have Arizona State and Houston, both 3-9 and 1-8 in the conference. So that's kind of how I see it shaking out here. But, I mentioned Utah. And, of course, that's the one big win I do have Colorado getting here, is I've got them pulling off a home win against Utah. They're on a big losing streak in my predictions here. I got them snapping that, upsetting Utah, catching them off guard there. And I've got them beating Oklahoma State as well. So a couple, surprise wins for them there towards the end of the season. Maybe they finally get it together. I've got that predicted for them. But that's kind of the way I see it, guys. That's my Big 12 record predictions for everyone there, my predicted Big 12 standings. Like I said, if you want to know something about a certain team, I'll scroll through here really slowly one more time so you can see W's in green, L's in red, There's Utah. That's what I'll think of them and their schedule for the upcoming season. And to be honest, I didn't think I would pick Utah to have 10 wins, but they have a very easy schedule when you look at it, guys. I mean, they really do. They got super blessed by the Big 12, unfortunately. I hate to say that, but they did. That's what I've got for UCF. There you see the wins and the losses. Then we go up here, Texas Tech. And, of course, if you listen to the season prediction roundtable, you already know what I had for WVU, but there it is written out in black and white there. Texas Tech's schedule and West Virginia's schedule. So this will be good on the playback as well. You know, when I scroll up to your team, you can pause and look and see where I have the wins and losses at. So I'm going to slowly scroll up through this for people that may want to check out their team's record on the playback here. There is Kansas and TCU, what I have for both of them and their schedules for the upcoming season there. I think Kansas has a fairly manageable schedule as well. Iowa State and Oklahoma State there. That's what I have for those two programs. Both, those teams can be competitors in this conference. And as you see, it's going to be a wide open conference. A lot of these teams going to have good records, I think, and it's going to be highly competitive to see who ends up playing in Arlington for that Big 12 championship game. Houston and Kansas State, one of the teams predicted the bottom of the conference. One team I've got predicted the very top of the conference there in Kansas State. I was high on them last year. I ended up not being correct. I'm high on them again this year. We'll see if this time I'm more correct on the Kansas State Wildcats there. So that's those two. Then you got Baylor and Colorado. I got Baylor at 6-6. I think they've got a chance to be decent. They're bringing in Jake Spavital. They're bringing in DeQuan Finn from Toledo. I think, having Jake Spavital as their offensive coordinator, they got some pieces that'll fit more. And then when you look at Colorado, do they have star power? Sure. They've got Shedeur Sanders. They've got Travis Hunter, but 5 new starters on the offensive line. And I'm telling you, it's hard to build an offensive line through the transfer portal. I just am not buying into that. I think it's something you got to work at, build it through, programs. And if you're not good in the trenches, you're going to struggle. And I think Colorado coming to the Big 12 is really going to struggle, especially with kind of their attitude and stuff. I know some people call them the TikTok team or whatever. That's kind of how I see them as well. They're just media darlings, and I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening in this conference personally. That's what I have for Baylor and Colorado on their schedules. Arizona State, I think that they've, got a good coach in place now, and in the future they may be able to build that up. But, they were just hit with those sanctions after the Herm Edwards scandal, and now they're really in kind of a down spot. They have a good running back in Scatabo, but I think they're going to struggle in the Big 12 as well. And then Cincinnati, I think that they're maybe a little bit better than some teams expect, especially because, they've got Dante Corleone back on that defensive line. They'll probably be pretty good in the trenches. Corey Kiner back, Xavier Henderson back, Brady Lichtenberg back, Sorbsby back. So they've got some good pieces back. So I think that they got a chance to make a bowl game. That's what I have for those two teams. And then lastly, we have Arizona and BYU. BYU, maybe they'll surprise me, but I don't see it. I've got them down there. Do got them pulling off a couple, surprising conference wins there. One over Kansas being the most surprising. You got to throw some shockers in there. And, especially if they're going to need to break that losing streak, maybe they'll be able to do it against Kansas at home. That's what I've got there. And then Arizona, I think, maybe one of the more underrated additions for the upcoming season. I know a lot of people are worried about it because they're bringing in a whole new coaching staff, but they do return a lot of pieces. And I'm just a big fan of Noah Fafita and T-Mac at their wide receiver. I think that's a good 1-2 combo. And also, teams having to come over there to play them. It's going to be no joke, and, teams are going to have to get used to that. So I think they're going to have a pretty good season as well. So when you look at it, I think Arizona and Utah are going to have the two best seasons of the incoming teams there. But there's a look at the schedule breakdown and the predicted standings. I'll slow down here one more time to the predicted Big 12 standings. That's what I have for the 2024 predictions. Let's hope I'm as correct as I was in 2023, especially when it comes to the Mountaineers. That's really the main one that I'm concerned about. But that's the way I see it shaking out for the upcoming season, guys, right there. So that's the 2024 Big 12 predictions for me. Got that out of the way. Let's come back here and check in on some stuff here. Coos, what's going on, bro? Good to see you in here, man. Appreciate it. He says he has Utah at 11-1. Their schedule on paper is gravy compared to most others. Yeah. And I really, I was kind of hating on Utah too. I'm like, man, I don't know. Coming into the Big 12, I'm just not sold. I know their quarterback and tight end were good, but also are they going to be rusty? But then when I got here and doing it, in black and white on paper and look at their schedule, their schedule is almost a cakewalk. So I don't blame you one bit. I nearly had them 11-1 as well, but I always throw in some crazy upsets in there. Daniel Sargent said WVU losing to Iowa State ain't going to happen, brother. Hey, hopefully you're right, man. If you haven't checked it out, go check out our season prediction roundtable show that we released last week. I give some kind of reasons for that. And really my main reason is when I'm going through and doing our season prediction, that we always do. This is our 7th annual. Hard to believe we've been doing the podcast for going on 7 years now. But one of the main things that I always try and pick out is I think West Virginia is going to win a game they probably shouldn't win. And usually West Virginia loses a game they probably shouldn't lose. And so to me this year, that game I picked was Iowa State. Hopefully I'm wrong. And that's one that they end up winning. I think they've got a great chance to win it, but that's just kind of my thinking there is I always pick West Virginia to lose one they're not supposed to. And so that was my pick for that one this year. Timothy Green says, I think I pretty well nailed it. It's that damn close. Yeah, it is, man. It's a toss-up with a lot of these teams. You see in the predictions I've got there, some 9-3, some 8-4s, all with good conference records. So it's really just going to come down to, I think it's going to be that threshold of if you can lose 2 or less conference games, you probably got a chance of making the conference championship with how competitive I think that this conference is going to be, to be honest. But if you lose 3, that might keep you out. And like I said, my main worry, though, is just the fact of having a 16-team conference with only 9 conference games. A lot of these teams don't play each other. There's a great chance, unfortunately, that you're going to have a couple teams that end up with identical records, and it's going to come down to a tiebreaker scenario of who gets to go to the Big 12 championship game. And it's going to break my heart if that ends up hurting West Virginia. That's the one thing I'm worried about for sure. Who said he's on the same page with Cincinnati. Glad to see I'm not the only one thinking that. They're underrated, I think, and I think UCF's a bit underrated as well. I haven't heard too many people mention them. I like what they've got going on. Koo says his are similar. Hey, that puts me in good company, man. I always trust your opinion. You study the national college football scene and the conference is better than I do, so I feel pretty good about that. Eric Flower says he'll take 10-2. He has $1,000 on WVU over 6.5 wins. Hey man, that's a good bet. I don't blame you for taking that bet one bit. I put some money on the 6.5, and then I juiced it up, and I even put some money on West Virginia over 7.5 wins as well. For sure, I did that. I think that you're definitely going to win some money on that one, Eric, as Koo says here. Prepare to pad that wallet. Indeed. I think you're going to win some money on that one, brother. So that's what I have there for the 2024 Big 12 predictions. Hopefully it ends up shaking out, like I said, decently accurate in 2023. So hopefully have similar luck in 2024. You guys got any other thoughts on the predictions or any other questions or anything? Let me know in there. We'll chat it up a little bit. And other than that, I'm going to start talking some WVU camp updates and some other updates that have been going around on social media for sure. Koo says nobody talking about Connor at Cincy. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't know if it's just because there's so many good running backs in this league. People are forgetting about him. Also, it may have helped that I just did the Cincinnati rewatch this morning, so I got to see him, play a little bit there. May have, refreshed my memory just in time to do these Big 12 predictions later today when I did them. But I definitely think he's super underrated. And, Cincinnati's good in the trenches, and that makes a difference for sure. Getting Corleone back, getting a lot of those guys back. And then, I looked up the roster while I was doing that rewatch, and not only is Connor back, but they have their big play receiver Henderson's back. The quarterback that they started against us, Lichtenberg's back, and Sorbsby, whoever they end up starting there. But they definitely got some good pieces back for sure. And I think Corey Connor is probably one of the more underrated running backs that nobody's talking about in this conference, because you hear a lot about all the other ones, but his name isn't one that pops up too often, and it should. He's a tough customer. Tim, I'm hoping so, man. I got my fingers crossed. They certainly got as good a chance as anyone, and that's, what I keep saying to myself is why not us? I hear all these talks about these other teams, and, the game's got to be played out on the field. We'll see what happens. And the one thing that keeps coming to my mind is, when you look at the schedules, is West Virginia is tougher on paper? Yes, but I think a lot of people are forgetting that last year going into the season, people were saying the same thing. Oh, man, West Virginia's schedule was super tough because everyone was thinking, Texas Tech's going to be at the top of the conference. Everyone was thinking TCU is going to be at the top of the conference, and West Virginia had to play them in the early conference slate. And of course, now when you look back in hindsight, that schedule wasn't as tough as we were led to believe, going into the season. So I'm just kind of hoping that 2024 pans out the same way, because on paper, West Virginia's schedule right now looks tough, but who knows if all those teams that are predicted to be, top of the conference end up being that. We'll see how it shakes out. And in hindsight, we might look back and say, West Virginia's wasn't as tough as we thought, but West Virginia certainly has, a tougher task to get there than some other teams like Utah that we mentioned. Utah got blessed by the Big 12 conference, absolutely blessed with their schedule for sure. Eric says he's got a feeling himself every time we have a good old line with a bunch of old dudes. We have a great season. That's a great point, man. And we were super experienced this year. And that's one thing that does stand out, man, is being good in the trenches. And West Virginia has built this program through the trenches on both sides of the football, offensive line and defensive line. And I think that that's going to make a difference. You know, replacing Zach Frazier, no small feat, but you look, I mean, so many snaps there along the offensive line. You're going to have 4 seniors and a junior there. And, you know, Thomas Remek, the junior, is one of the more talented ones on that offensive line, really. So, I mean, they've got a lot of good pieces on that O-line. And it's really just kind of an intangible feeling, I think, as a Mountaineer fan. You can almost kind of just feel that quiet confidence, you know, before the season. I felt this way back in like 2016. No one thought we would do anything, and I had a good feeling we'd have a great year, end up winning 10 games that year. And it's kind of that similar feel this year, you know, heading into that. And of course, if you listen to the season prediction roundtable, we were kind of comparing it to, like, you know, if you look back to the 2004 team, you know, Rasheed Marshall and those guys, they won 8 or 9 games and really opened up the door for a great 3-year run then from 05 to 07. You know, history tends to repeat itself. And you look last year, you know, 19, you know, almost 20 years later, West Virginia ends up winning 9 games. Could that open up the door for another good run that we're about to start now? We've also seen Neil Brown do something similar at Troy, you know, had a decent win total and then won 10 games 3 years in a row. So hopefully he can replicate that at West Virginia, and the history of the program here at WVU can, you know, repeat itself as well. Apologies for my dog barking if the mic's picking that up. My wife just got home, I believe, so he'll probably bark for a few seconds. But let's pull up some camp stuff here, guys. Talk a little bit about West Virginia's camp. See here. I did have some of the highlights here. Let's share these here from the university's social accounts. If you guys haven't seen these, I got one on the defensive side. Some of the defensive players, you know, standing out, breaking up some passes. They tend to not show a ton of defensive highlights, but let's see what happens here. You know, they finally did give us one the other day. Oops, if I can hit the right button there. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to close it off. Pull it back up there. And let this one play through. It's about 30 seconds, guys. And I'm going to take a swig of my coffee while it does that. All right, so let me run this back, and we'll talk about a couple of these. All right, so first off here, we see Aubrey Burks jump a pass right there, get an interception, and then we get a good pass break up here by Garnett Hollis, who they've talked a lot about coming out of Northwestern. Did an interview today as a press conference with West Virginia for one, but also seen Coos in the chat. I got a chance to listen to the Golden Blue Breakdown episode 3, which is a great podcast. If you guys haven't checked that out, Coos and Jonathan Martin are doing. They interviewed Garnett Hollis, and that was a really great conversation as well. I listened to that on my way home from the movie theaters after I watched the new Alien movie today, but he's going to be a good one. So we got his pass break up there. And then right here, we get a little double team. Jacoby Spells with a tip drill, tips it to, I believe that's Aiden Nelson there, securing the interception and getting the toes down in the back of the end zone. See the defense celebrating there on that one. So, you know, one good thing about this is you don't want to see in camp one unit constantly outperforming the other. You know, there we see some defensive highlights, but we've seen some offensive highlights as well, and that's what I want to pull up now. This, if you guys haven't seen it, is going to be Jaden Bray, the wide receiver transfer we brought in from Oklahoma State. I think he's going to play a big part in this offense this upcoming season. I think he's going to be has the potential to be a really special player. And, you know, these plays I'm going to show you, Tony Caridi even talked about these a little bit on Three Guys the other day, that he was there to witness these. And he said it was, you know, the video doesn't even really do it justice. He said these were real wow catches. And, you know, all these came in one practice, all these highlights I'm about to show you guys. And he said, you know, it's something you haven't seen since really like the likes of, you know, Kevin White, Chris Henry days. So let me pull this one up here and get a look at some offensive highlights now that we've seen some of the defensive side. Let's take a look at the offense having their way a little bit. There's one. There's two. And how about one more there? with the spin, the mic drop, whatever you want to call it. So let's run it back there one more time, and you see Bilal Marshall, the receivers coach, celebrating as well. So let's check these out. This one you can see, I mean, it's good coverage here by Jacoby Spells. He can't really play that any better. I mean, Jaden Bray literally goes up and catches it over top of his helmet there. And that's just extremely impressive, extreme athleticism there by Jaden Bray to go up, high point it, and grab it right there despite good coverage. So that's one good thing about these highlights here is that one with Jacoby Spells, and then that one right there as well, good coverage on it also, and he just makes a play. And then in the back of the end zone, I think this is a combination of a great throw by Nico to put it where only he can get it, and of course, Jaden Bray high pointing the football and getting the feet down in the back of the end zone. And, I believe at least that last one, maybe a couple of those were coming with West Virginia doing red zone work, something they've been trying to do throughout this fall camp, something they want to improve on is getting more touchdowns in the red zone, not just field goals. So glad to see him working that and glad to see Jaden Bray making plays in those situations as well. For sure. Hey, what's going on, Kenny? See you in here, man. Tim Green says, I think our hardest competition will be Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and possibly Arizona. Yeah, I think when I look at the schedule really for West Virginia, I mentioned this in the season prediction roundtable was, West Virginia's got to defend their home field. They've got 7 home games this year. That's a plus because we know Morgantown's a tough place to play. But when you look at the road contest, the Big 12 may have not done West Virginia any favors, schedule-wise overall, but they did do West Virginia one favor, and that is West Virginia doesn't play back-to-back road games. If you look at the schedule, the one time that they play back-to-back road games, they have a bye week in between. So really no back-to-back road games. But as you mentioned, Oklahoma State and Arizona, both of those contests are on the road. I think you've got to win at least one of those. If you want to have a chance to make the conference championship game, you got to beat one of those two teams on the road because they're both going to be a good one. Mountain Man says every year Brown has lost to the 5th team on the schedule. Oh, that's a good point. I didn't realize that. Hopefully that's another thing that he can break this year. Last year going into the season, there was a lot of talk about, Neil Brown couldn't beat Texas Tech. He got that monkey off his back, and then he hadn't won 3 games in a row. He did that as well. So, hopefully that's another one that he can break this year, beat the 5th team on the schedule finally then. Good point there, Mountain Man. Appreciate that. Kenny says he's so excited for the first game to start. Please watch the WVU Sports and see how confident the coaches and team itself, how confident they are. Absolutely. Great point there, Kenny. It's something everyone should do. If you haven't been watching the player interviews and the coach press conferences, you can just sense, something different about this team. The team chemistry is there, but this team seems really confident about this upcoming season. And, I really liked what Garnett Hollis had to say today, talking about going out against Penn State and they're ready, to go out and punch them in the mouth. And so I hope that that's the whole aspect of confidence that the whole team has in regards to that game. I think that they do. I think West Virginia is really going to come out ready in that game. We're going to hit them early. It's just going to be a matter of can Penn State respond? And if they do respond, can we continue to, play with them for 4 quarters? If you guys have seen the season prediction roundtable, you know how I feel about it. But, in addition to that, I do want to go ahead and point out, it's a great time to point it out, coming up, be what is today, Friday? So about a week from today, we will be releasing our Penn State preview and predictions podcast, guys. We're going to record that over the weekend. And this time, next Friday, you'll be able to listen to our Penn State preview episode, hear us break down the matchups, and hear our score prediction for that game. And also we'll be making our predictions for the week 1 games in the Big 12 Conference. So be on the lookout for that. Bradley, Steven, and I all getting together, continuing the podcast here. Season 7 rolling now after we've released the season prediction roundtable. Now we're getting into our game previews and game review side of things with the Penn State preview coming up. We're going to release it a week ahead of time so people have plenty of time to listen to that one. So that'll be coming out next Friday. Do want to mention that right now for sure. Eric says, you see the size of the thighs on that guy? He looks like he could jump over the crossbar. Man, he is. He's a freak. I think they've been calling him Optimus Prime is what they said in the spring. And that's what noticed to me was like when he spun that ball, his biceps and forearms, the dude's a freak, man. And especially going up and high pointing the football like that. Jaden Bray is going to be a guy to watch this season. Absolutely. As Tim says, damn, that old boy can catch the ball. That's what we need. Absolutely, Tim. Absolutely. Eric says he's taking WVU plus 10.5. He think the game goes over. I think we score easier than the odds makers think. So running back will run on anyone with this line. Our wide receivers, tight ends will break out. Definitely will score. Indeed. And Penn State, the middle of their defensive line is kind of their weak point on that defensive line as well, I think, especially when it comes to run defense. Last year they ended up at the end of the year with a top 5 run defense in the country, but West Virginia ran for over 150 yards on them last year, and that was without Jaheim White, getting any reps in that game. And, of course, we didn't really unleash Garrett Green at that point either. We were still kind of playing it close to the vest with him. So, there's a few things that Penn State hasn't seen us do yet. One of those being Garrett Green, the other one being, Jaheim White, a fully unleashed. With those two, I think I like our chances there as well. And, Abdul Carter's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but it's going to be a bit different for him playing defensive end versus linebacker. But I still think he's a very dynamic player on that Penn State defense that we're going to have to look out for. But I don't blame you. I took the 10.5 over the spread as well for West Virginia. And, since there's such good odds, I took West Virginia on the money line as well because, throw $5 on that, you can turn it into, 20 or 30. So I just threw a little change on that one as well. May as well, feeling pretty good about it now. We'll see what happens. I'm going to start breaking down the game over the weekend. Like I said, we're going to be recording the episode. So probably tomorrow night, I'm going to dive in, start taking some notes on the Nittany Lions, and hopefully I'll still feel as confident at that point as well. But see, we got a few more people in here now. Appreciate y'all hopping in. I did the Big 12 predictions a little bit ago. So if you want to rewind and catch that, you can, or wait and catch it on the playback, you can. But everyone that's in here, if you just do me a favor, I'd love it a ton if you hit that thumbs up button. Helps a lot with that YouTube algorithm. And of course, subscribe here. Going to be a ton of Mountaineer football content coming as we're getting ready to get the season underway. We've already started season 7 of the podcast, so definitely going to be a ton of content coming your all's way for sure. But pull up just a few couple things I had left here that I wanted to share with you guys. Then we'll get ready to wrap this thing up before too much longer. But you guys got any other questions or comments? I'll try and touch up on those one more time as well. But as I pull this up, I'm going to take a swig of my coffee again. All right, so if you guys haven't seen this is really cool. West Virginia Sports put this out. I believe this yesterday this was announced, or maybe in the day before. Nonetheless, West Virginia honoring the late, great Jerry West with these 44 patches that all 18 varsity sports teams will wear. So these will be on the football uniforms for the upcoming season. The basketball team is also doing a throwback jersey. They did it once before. I think it was back in 2004. They're going to wear the Jerry West era jerseys for one game. But all 18 varsity sports at WVU are going to be wearing this patch on their jerseys. So we'll see that on the football jerseys for the upcoming season. And super, I said that's first class, way to honor Jerry West indeed. So definitely wanted to share that with you guys if you hadn't seen it yet. And then speaking of, we were speaking a little bit about Garnett Hollis. I'm going to share this as well from Jim Nagy, who does work with the NFL, a lot of NFL draft stuff. And it's talking a little bit about Garnett Hollis. That'll probably get you a little bit excited for him. We've talked a lot about him and Aiden Garnes on this program. They're two guys that we're really excited about the cornerback position that West Virginia has added. Jim Nagy says West Virginia typically hasn't played with big 6-foot corners, but that's exactly what they got in former Northwestern transfer Garnett Hollis. What is WVU getting in Hollis? The simple answer is someone with requisite physical traits to match up against the best perimeter receivers in the Big 12, which has been an issue for West Virginia in recent years. A couple agents put Hollis on the Senior Bowl radar last fall when he was considering coming out before this season for this draft. And he eventually played his way into a mid-day 3 draftable grade for us, and he's decided to come back and play one more year here and do it at WVU. Early tape was shaky with too many eye violations and missed tackles, but Hollis played more dialed and physical as the season wore on and was noticeably playing with more confidence in later views. Hollis is at his best in press man, where he can use his length and strength to disrupt the line of scrimmage. And he's got a good clip of that here, which I'll show momentarily. And he'll be fast enough at the high 4.4 to run with almost every receiver on the West Virginia schedule. And check this out. The thing I tweeted out when I saw this clip is take note of the team he's playing against here in this clip. Guys, this is against Penn State. And this is Garnett Hollis, who obviously has played them playing in the Big Ten, but, he's not going to be scared of him. And this clip right here is going to show it. Here he is on the bottom of the screen. Great coverage. And, he ends up with the pass breakup here. Guard number 3 here on Penn State last year. And also, one thing to note is Penn State's replacing pretty much their whole wide receiver core for the most part. Bringing in a lot of new guys. Keandre Lambert-Smith gone. So a lot of new faces there. And Garnett Hollis, has played against them in the past. And there you see some good coverage from Garnett. And we're going to get to see what he does against them August 31st as well. So definitely wanted to showcase that because that's something that'll get you excited for this upcoming season and for August 31st also. All right. And then here's another thing that I wanted to share with you guys. This came from Ultimate Fan USA. Excuse me. Only one running back in the FBS last season registered a yards per carry average of 7.5 yards or higher with a minimum of 100 attempts. And that running back, none other than Jaheim White, 109 attempts, 7.7 yards per carry. And if you guys have been, following along on the channel, if you're a channel member here at the Almost Heaven level, I've noted this going through our rewatches is that Jaheim White, didn't really start getting playing time until, the final 6 games of the season. Didn't even get his final start until the next to last game of the 2023 season, And, he ended up leading the team in rushing 842 yards despite only playing in 5 or 6 games. So we're really excited to see what he can do this year. And he's one of the reasons I'm excited about this matchup against Penn State because they haven't had to face him yet. And he's a whole different breed. Played this little clip here that came along with it of this touchdown run against UCF here of Jaheim White getting around the edge and getting into the end zone there. But just love that stat that he's the only running back in the FBS last year that had a yards per carry of 7.5 yards or higher with a minimum of 100 attempts. So good stat there. And then speaking of good stats, the last thing I want to share with you guys, you may have seen this going around on social media. I tweeted this out and it got pretty good traction, but this is actually just a quote from Bruce Feldman's Freaks List. Every year in the preseason, he comes out with his Freaks List, which is just kind of, what it is, the freaks in college football that, are at, absurd athleticism, things like that. West Virginia had 2 guys on that list this year, those being Ty French on defense and the player on offense that was on that list, Garrett Green. And this is one of the quote that he had in the thing about Green. And as you can see with the emoji there, definitely blew my mind, some of these numbers, especially knowing that this was, last year. And he's probably improved that this year and is going to be even better at these things when it comes time for him to test in the combine for real. But Garrett Green tested out an elite level in the offseason, including a 10-yard split of 1.48 seconds. That's faster than any quarterback has ever run at the NFL Combine. Let me repeat that one more time, just for emphasis. Garrett Green's 10-yard split is faster than any quarterback has ever run at the NFL Combine, ever. And he had a 6.68 3-cone time. Only 3 quarterbacks have ever done it faster at the Combine. So that really just, hammers home Garrett Green's athleticism that's probably underrated even by us as Mountaineer fans, because I certainly didn't think that he would have the fastest 10-yard split of any quarterback ever at the NFL Combine when they tested it last offseason. So Garrett Green really is an elite quarterback with an elite athleticism, and hopefully, he's made the steps forward in the passing game that we need this season. I truly believe that he has from all accounts this offseason. And, one thing to note is Garrett Green had a special season last year, but West Virginia quarterbacks, when they're in their second season starting, they always take a big leap. And if Garrett Green takes a big leap, it's not crazy to think of him as a dark horse Heisman candidate for the upcoming season, guys, especially when you're looking at crazy athleticism like that. And if he increases his passing totals, which I think he will, his receivers are going to be more experienced. He was dealing with freshmen for the majority of last season, and West Virginia still ended up having an explosive offense. I think GG's set for a special season, indeed. And then the last thing, guys, and then I'll just catch up with some of your all's comments before we wrap up. I wanted to share this. This came out today. We know West Virginia is not ranked in, the official top 25 polls, the coaches poll or the AP poll. Just outside on both those, I believe they've got votes in the AP. If you total it up, they're probably about 33rd, I think. But PFF has been showing us a lot of love this offseason. And in PFF's top 25, they have us ranked 25th there. Shout out to Max Chadwick over at PFF because he's really been one that's been, pushing the West Virginia train, telling people, hey, you're underrating West Virginia. This team can be scary. Garrett Green's, one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the country. So I definitely think he deserves a shout out because he's someone that's in the national media that's kind of looking at this similar to how we're looking at it and, with people that cover West Virginia, and we see how this team can be. He, I think, sees it as well, and PFF places us in their top 25 there at 25th, so did want to share that with you guys, but that's pretty much all I've got, guys. Just wanted to, share my Big 12 predictions for the upcoming season, take a look back at last season, see how we did, and ended up pretty good, so hopefully if, that follows suit for this upcoming season, it should bode well for our Mountaineers. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Big 12 predictions and provide some camp updates, guys. I think Kenny mentioned it. If you want to get, some really good camp updates, definitely be following the press conferences that they've been releasing. Every couple of days they've been having, different assistant coaches. They've been having Neil Brown. And, coming up this week is really going to be, this weekend, I should say, is a make or break scrimmage coming tomorrow for West Virginia. That's when they're really going to start narrowing down the 2 deep, because coming up this coming week, about the 21st, I think, is the day that they're going to start Penn State prep. So literally in the, dog days of fall camp here is getting close to the end of it. It's going to be Penn State preparation coming up, starting in the middle of next week. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty now, guys. 2 weeks away from the Penn State game, 2 weeks away from the start of the 2024 season. Couldn't be more excited. If you guys haven't yet, go listen to our Season Prediction Roundtable podcast that kicked off Season 7 for us, because coming this time next week, you got about 7 days to listen to that one, because then it's our Penn State preview and prediction episode. Me, Bradley, and Steven will all be getting together to record that in the next few days, and that'll be coming at you guys next Friday. So it's here. It's just about here, guys. This 2024 season is right around the corner. So let me catch up on some of your all's comments, and then we will get ready to end this one, as we've talked some Big 12 predictions in this one. And appreciate you guys that tuned into this live, or even if you're watching this on playback, I appreciate that as well. Let's see what we got here. Mountain Man said he was wrong, double-checked. TCU 5th game last year, but he does lose a lot of games middle of the season. So, hey, he already broke that trend then, sounds like. This year he says we play Oklahoma State away 5th game. That's a tough one for sure. Like I said earlier, that's one of those away games we need to win. We need to either win that one or Arizona. We got to win at least one of those two. I hope we win both of them, but got to win at least one of those two. And Stillwater is a place we've struggled in, so would love to be able to go there and get a win. That would be a statement win if so. Kenny says we have a deep team this year. It's going to be hard for any team in the Big 12. We'll have fresher legs. We'll make things tough on the opposing teams. I agree, Kenny. I agree. We do have a deep team, definitely the deepest team this coaching staff has had. So should make a difference, especially, we got a great conditioning program that's been helping us throughout this offseason. We have more depth than we've had. We just have to hope and pray that we don't get hit with the injury bug. That's the one thing that could throw things off course, because as it stands right now, when I look at the roster top to bottom, West Virginia has the depth to compete, in this league down the stretch of both games and down the stretch of the season. So I definitely think the depth is there to compete with anyone in this conference. And like I said, it's a wide open Big 12 this year. Why not us? Why not West Virginia? We got as good a chance as anyone for sure. Tim Green says Jaheim White's going to have a breakout year this year. He's a freaking stud. 100% agree. You know that I love some Jaheim White. That's my favorite player on the roster, man. I think that guy is special with a capital S, and I think the rest of the nation's really going to learn about it this upcoming season. That doesn't already know, they're definitely going to know. He'll be a household name by October, November. People are going to know Jaheim White. I fully believe that. I definitely think he'll go over 1,000 yards. Kenny says he sees White, Fox, Hudson, Rodney on both sides of the ball. Jaden Bray on one that hasn't been talked about too much going under the radar is Justin Robinson. Yeah, Justin Robinson is flying under the radar a little bit for sure. I definitely think he's going to be a piece. We'll see how much he contributes early on. I know in Bilal Marshall's press conference, he was saying that he still has some things he needs to get used to. He came in a little bit later than the other guys, so I think that's what put him a little bit behind the 8 ball. But I think definitely when they're talking about improving in the red zone, Jaden Bray, as we saw in those highlights, is going to make a difference there. Justin Robinson and his large frame can make a difference there, in addition to the red zone weapon we already have in Cole Taylor. So I think bringing in Justin Robinson from Mississippi State and Jaden Bray from Oklahoma State were great moves for this receiving core. And, of course, can't discount, Preston Fox, Hudson Clement, Traylon Ray, all of those guys with another year of experience under their belt after finally, getting some reps last year are only going to be that much better. And then Rodney Gallagher, man, that's something that we got to mention here before we wrap up is how about, Neil Brown coming out in his most recent press conference, because a lot of us were kind of speculating, okay, they've moved Rodney over to defense and saying he's going to play both ways, but is he really going to play that much on the defensive side? And Neil Brown made it clear. He said he's going to play both. And not only did he say he's going to play both, but he said he may be the best man-to-man cover guy on the team right now. And that's just super high praise, super impressive, especially with some of the pieces that we added in the secondary that I'm really high on. I was surprised to hear that, but I think that definitely goes to show Rodney Gallagher is going to play on both sides of the football. So we'll see how that shakes out. But definitely, as athletic as he is, I shouldn't be surprised by that. But, man, he seems like he's just really a natural at the cornerback position then if he's the best man-to-man cover guy right now. And I think his lateral quickness is one reason that probably is the case. But super impressed by that. I think he's got a chance to be a breakout player this season, making plays on offense and on defense, and I'm excited to see that happen. I don't think I've ever seen anybody play both ways at West Virginia in my time, so I'm super excited to see that happen for the first time for sure. Kenny said linebacker coach said 8 players he can rotate in. Yeah, linebackers is super deep, man. It's super deep there. That's what I think we improved. Last year we had the deep D line, but we really lacked depth in the linebacker and in the secondary in the back half of the defense. And we saw that hurt us in the back portion of the season when we really, had some injuries pile up there. And we unfortunately had, Beanie Bishop and Malachi Ruffin playing almost every snap. Garnett Hollis and Aiden Garnes aren't going to have to do that this season. They've got solid backups, Jacoby Spells, Dantes Fagan, TJ Crandall. All of those guys can get reps at the cornerback position. Same with the safeties, where we have multiple guys that we can play there, be it Aubrey Burks, be it Zay Jennings, Anthony Wilson, Jaheim Joseph, KK Tarnu. Josiah Jackson's been getting praised. So there's definitely depth there in the secondary. And then, of course, the linebackers that you mentioned. I think Lathan and Trotter are going to be, something special starting together. But then you look behind them and you got Ben Cutter, who had to start last season. He'll be providing reserve reps. And Reed Carrico, who was a very highly rated recruit out of high school. So plenty of depth in the back end of the defense. So I think that they have kind of prepared for, potential worst case scenario, so that if something does happen, something does go wrong as far as the injury side of things, they'll be prepared. And just in case that does pop up this season and rear its ugly head, they have the depth behind those pieces that it shouldn't hurt us as bad as it did last year defensively. So super excited about that for sure. I appreciate that, Timothy. Appreciate that, man. Thank you for the shout out there. And I appreciate you guys that tuned into this. One final reminder, if you haven't yet, we'll love to see you become a member here of the Country Roads Webcast. You can hit the join button just down there, right in the video description, right beside the channel name, right beside the subscribe button. No better time to do it with 2024 season about to start up. There's going to be film reviews coming there. The player grades videos are going to be coming there. And already right now you can rewatch pretty much the entire 2023 season with me breaking down each game, providing commentary there as it plays through. I've got all the season done except for, the Baylor game and the bowl game, and those will be up within the next week. So you can rewatch the whole 2023 season there at the Almost Heaven level. And then even if you join at the Wild and Wonderful level, there's still a ton of great content. You get the badges, you get the emojis. I've been doing, breakdowns of Neil Brown's press conferences there. You'll have the player grade videos there. So either level you join at, I would really appreciate that here. You guys are the catalyst that help keep things going here at the Country Roads Webcast, you channel members. But I appreciate all you guys that tune into these, even if you're just a subscriber, because I know that that's a free and easy way to help me out. And if you haven't done that yet, I encourage you subscribe here to the channel. Ton of Mountaineer football content coming here as the 2024 season's about set to get underway. And before you head out, whether you're watching this live or if you're watching this after fact on a playback, hit the thumbs up. Helps a ton with the YouTube algorithm, just hitting that little like button. If you didn't get a chance to tune in live and throw in your thoughts, throw them in the comments there, whether it be on the Big 12 predictions or any of the WVU football camp talk. I'd love to interact with you on any one of those and appreciate your guys there contributing in the comments as well. So having said that, guys, we're getting ready to wrap this one up for sure. And we will look ahead to the 2024 season more in the coming days. Like I said, not season prediction roundtable, that's out already, but Penn State preview and predictions podcast will be out in just a week's time. We're very close to the 2024 season, guys. I think it's going to be a really fun one. Super excited about it, ready to get this special season underway, and we're so close now, guys. But appreciate y'all tuning into this one. As always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.